So thank you very much for coming. This is the first Treeleaf Ryaku Fusatsu ceremony of the full moon recommitment to the precepts. This is carried out normally twice a month in Soto Zen temples. Excuse me, once at the full moon and once at the new moon. And it's a tradition that's been going since the Buddha's time, when the Sangha would gather together, and first of all, they just gathered together at the full moon to meditate. And they invited lay people to come, and at some point, lay people wanted some teachings. So the Buddha decided that what he'd do is he'd recite the Vinaya, which is the list of monastic rules. And in the early Buddhist traditions, there's, I think, about 350 of those. But in Mahayana traditions and in Zen, we've chopped those down to the 16 precepts, which captures the spirit of all of the 350 or so rules. So I think most of you have taken Jukai, but even if you haven't, it doesn't matter. You can just follow along and just commit to living with these precepts in your life. So we begin just by having 3 bells and offering incense. You don't need to bow at this bit, just me. Then we all make 3 prostrations at the sound of the bell. Well, to be clear, 1 prostration per each bell, 3 in total. By the way, in case newer members are wondering, I do my prostrations from sitting because I've got a long-term disability, which makes it harder for me to stand and walk. So if you're wondering, that's why I'm doing it like that. Now, if you wouldn't mind, what I'd like to do for just before we start the main bit is just to do 5 minutes or so of Zazen. Is that okay? Cool. as well as the ceremony for recommitting to the precepts, Ryaku Fusatsu is also one of confessing and atoning. It's not like Catholicism. I'm not going to be sitting here and taking your confessions. But as normal, when we recite the verse of atonement, we just want to hold in our hearts just a feeling of regret or just awareness of the wrong we might have done over the last month. And because this is such a key part of the ceremony, normally we only recite the verse of atonement once. But in Ryaku Fusatsu, we recite it 3 times. So I'm not as brave as Jundo to have all of your microphones on. So when we're all chanting together, it's probably best if you mute your microphones, and then you can just follow along with me and just hear yourself chanting. Maybe further down the line we might try it with microphones on, but for now I think we'll just do it on our own. So I think you all know it, but anyway, it's on the sheet provided. So hands in Gasho, and we'll recite the verse of atonement 3 times. All harmful acts, words, and thoughts ever committed by me since of old, on account of beginningless greed, anger, and ignorance, born in my body, mouth, and mind, now I atone for them all. All harmful acts, words, and thoughts ever committed by me since of old, on account of beginningless greed, anger, and ignorance, born of my body, mouth, and mind, now I atone for them all. All harmful acts, words, and thoughts ever committed by me since of old, on account of beginningless greed, anger, and ignorance, born of my body, mouth, and mind, now I atone for them all. We next invoke the presence of the Buddhas. And this is to, depending on how you think of it, you can either think we're invoking real presence of Buddhas or the symbolic compassion and wisdom that is within all of us. So we begin with 3 bells, and then we recite each of the homages after another bell. So just follow along. So hands in Gasho. Homage to the 7 Buddhas of the past, as symbols of our connection through time. Homage to Shakyamuni Buddha, a person of this earth. Homage to Miroku Buddha, symbol of hope for the future. Homage to Monju Bodhisattva, symbol of great wisdom. Homage to Fugen Bodhisattva, symbol of great activity. Homage to Kanzeon Bodhisattva, symbol of great compassion. Homage to the successive generations of ancestor Bodhisattvas. And thinking of those Buddhas as our inspiration, we now recite the 4 Bodhisattva vows that commit us to the same path as they took. So as normal, we recite the 4 Bodhisattva vows 3 times. For those who may not have been here before, you recite the first one normally, then louder, and then quiet at the end. Anyway, if you, as Jundo says, if you've been here before, you know what to do. If it's your first time, follow along. To save all sentient beings, though beings numberless, to transform all delusions, though delusions inexhaustible, to perceive reality, though reality is boundless, to attain the enlightened way, a way non-attainable, to save all sentient beings, though beings numberless, to transform all delusions, though delusions inexhaustible, to perceive reality, though reality is boundless, to attain the enlightened way, a way non-attainable, to save all sentient beings, though beings numberless, to transform all delusions, though delusions inexhaustible, to perceive reality, though reality is boundless, to attain the enlightened way, a way non-attainable. Now, those of you who've just been through, do you do this at Jukai? Do you do the water thing, or is it? No, you don't. Maybe it's just for the priest ordination. But I've actually forgotten my leaf. But hopefully you've got your bowl of water. If you've got a leaf, that's cool. If not, you can just dip your hand in it and flick it at yourself. And this is just, now we've confessed and atoned, called on the Buddhas, recited our Bodhisattva vows. This is just a symbolic purification. As the Buddha said, that he criticized the sort of Brahmic religions for their purifying themselves in the river Ganges. He said the only way to actually purify yourself is through your acts, words, and thoughts. But there's no harm in being symbolic and kind of purifying, just saying, okay, we've atoned for what we've done. This is a symbolic break with the last month and us starting afresh. So we just dip our leaf and things in the water and just flick it over ourselves 3 times. And if we are in a bricks and mortar Zendo, then I guess each of you will be coming up and I'd be flicking it at you myself. But since we're not, it has to be done this way. And now we've done that and put the past month behind us, we recommit to the precepts. And the traditional sutra in the Mahayana tradition, especially in East Asia, with respect to the precepts, is the Brahmajala Sutra, or Brahma's Net Sutra. And a traditional part of the Ryaku Fusatsu ritual is to recite from that before we then go on and recommit to the precepts. So I read the first line and then we'll put our hands in Gassho. So, all you disciples of the Buddha, join your palms in reverence and listen wholeheartedly. Hands in Gassho. I would now like to articulate the preface to the great precepts of the Buddhas. If the members of the assembly will quietly listen and they know that they have done wrong, they will repent or atone. I think atone is probably a better word. If they atone, then they will be at ease. If they do not atone, their wrongdoing will grow more grievous. Those who have done wrong are silent, and because of their silence, you should know that they are all purified. Worthy monks, laymen, laywomen, and everyone else, listen well. In this difficult age, when the lifetime of the Buddha sometimes seems distant, you should revere the Pratimoksha. The Pratimoksha is none other than these precepts. When you observe these precepts, it is like darkness meeting with light. It is like someone poor attaining a treasure. It is like someone who is ill being healed. It is like a prisoner being released from his chains. It is like a traveler who is able to return home. You should know that these rules are the great teacher for this assembly of people, no different from the presence of the Buddha in the world here and now. Thoughts of fear are difficult to produce. Unwholesome thoughts are difficult to give rise to. A sutra says, do not trivialize minor misdeeds as if they are not problematic. Drops of water, although tiny, will gradually fill a large basin. A single instant of wrongdoing can lead you to fall into a hell of uninterrupted suffering. Once you lose your human body, you may not get another for 10,000 kalpas. Just as a galloping horse passes by swiftly, one's physical strength will not remain. The transience of human life goes beyond the mountains and seas. Even if something remains for the duration of one day, it will be quite difficult to hold on to it tomorrow. Members of the assembly should each energetically advance their own minds. Be careful not to be lazy, negligent, drowsy, or arbitrary. In the evening, you must gather your thoughts and focus them firmly on the three treasures. Don't take as being a waste of time the effort to deepen your atonement for those of later generations. Members of the assembly, each of you in your own minds should carefully rely on these precepts. Discipline yourselves in the practices that accord with the Buddha's teachings. Now, for those of you who've just been through Jukai, the next section will be hugely familiar, I imagine, as we go through the 16 precepts and recommit to them. So we start off with the three refuges, hands in Gassho. Just recite along with me. Respectful devotion to Buddha, respectful devotion to Dharma, respectful devotion to Sangha, devotion to Buddha, the Supreme One, devotion to Dharma, the supreme purity and teaching, devotion to Sangha, the supreme community. perfect devotion to Buddha, perfect devotion to Dharma, perfect devotion to Sangha. And then we continue with the 3 pure precepts. And we all recite the first line, Tanzen Gasho. Today I reaffirm my commitment to seek as I can in this body and life, to avoid doing harm. To seek as I can in this body and life, to live in a healthful and helping way, doing good. To seek as I can in this body and life, to live for the benefit of all sentient beings. Then we do the same with the 10 fundamental precepts. Today I reaffirm my commitment to seek as I can in this body and life, to refrain from the killing of life. To seek as I can in this body and life, to live in generosity and refrain from taking that which is not given. To seek as I can in this body and life, to refrain from misusing sexuality and all desire. To seek as I can in this body and life, to refrain from false and malicious speech. To seek as I can in this body and life, to refrain from intoxication in its many forms. To seek as I can in this body and life, to refrain from unconstructively criticizing the errors and faults of others. To seek as I can in this body and life, to refrain from praising oneself and judging others. To seek as I can in this body and life, to refrain from stinginess in bestowing the Buddhist teachings and all precious things. To seek as I can in this body and life, to refrain from all anger. To seek as I can in this body and life, to refrain from disparaging the 3 treasures, Buddha, Dharma, Sangha. Now keep your hands in Gasho. Abiding in this ephemeral world, where we exist in muddy water with purity like a lotus, nothing escapes the boundless mind. Thus we bow to Buddha, all bow. Keep hands in Gasho. I'll recite the dedication, and then we'll recite the last 3 bits at the end. Buddha nature pervades the whole universe, reality existing right here now. In reaffirming our commitments to the precepts, we dedicate our sincere efforts to, and when I say these names, then we bow and stay bowed until after the 3rd line. Shakyamuni Buddha, honored one, the historical Buddha and teacher, to the all-pervading and everlasting 3 treasures, to all arhats and bodhisattvas, mahasattvas, and their relations throughout the Dharma world. May our sincere vows to accomplish and live the enlightened way be realized together. Now we all recite these last bits. All Buddhas throughout throughout space and time. All bodhisattvas, mahasattvas, mahaprajna, paramita, and then all bow. And that concludes the first Treeleaf Ryaku Fusatsu ceremony. So thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. And as I said earlier, thank you so much for bearing with me with the initial teething troubles. Hopefully that's all ironed out and next time will be totally perfect. So don't miss that one. Thank you so much for coming, and yeah, take care, and I'll see you on the forum.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kogu.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.